I want to talk to you a little bit more about MMA, but going back, you represent Ronda Rousey. So I didn't get to talk to you about
Yeah.
her, and you represented her at a big part of her career and stuff. Can you talk about that a little bit? Like, what was it like representing
Yeah.
one of the biggest stars in MMA at that time, and such? She was a trailblazer. I mean, she was like
Yeah.
the non-stereotypical situation, a female in the sport that was dominated by men fighting, and she was the
Mhm.
biggest star. It was incredible.
Look, I mean, it's one of the things I think I'm most proud of, is the journey that I've had with her. It started, funny enough, honestly, I was home watching an episode of The Ultimate Fighter. I can't remember exactly what season it was, but
Season
she, of
one.
course, was not a contestant. What's that?
Season one. No,
What'd
I'm
you
just
say?
kidding. I said season one. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. So I'm sitting home, and her friend Manny Camburian
Yep.
was a competitor on it, right? And she comes on and like as his friend, but I'm watching all the dudes in the house, all the fighters, like give her so much respect. Like here's this girl, blonde hair, leather jacket, big smile, and all these guys are just being really cool to her. But also, she's just got a thing, got an edge. And I
Yeah.
remember calling my wife over. I'm like, look at this girl. Like, isn't she badass? She's so cool. I go on my phone, I'm Googling finally once I hear the name, like Ronda Rousey. And I see, Olympian, bronze medalist. I totally remembered the story. She's a local girl, Venice Beach. And I'm from
Yeah.
LA. I remembered. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I can't believe I can't believe that's her. That's so cool. Like, and so I start doing, a little research. I find a bunch of photos of her, and and I end up sending a note to Ari Emanuel because we represented the UFC at that time, and I didn't know Dana at all. And I sent him photos, and I was like, was this young woman on Dana's radar? And I don't know. And so Ari just forwarded the note, just forwarded my email, I think, to Dana. And so Dana took that, and he did know her. He was definitely aware of her, and he got it to her. And so then I got a call from her manager at the time. It's like, I know, you reached out. He was really gracious, and he arranged a meeting for me to meet her. And man, I went up and met her at this little restaurant in between the city and the valley up on Mulholland Drive, like this Beverly Glen Center. She didn't give a shit about an agent, really. I don't think. She came from the gym. She had, her gym clothes on. She had a Starbucks in her hand, sweaty hair on top of her head. We joke to this day. She orders like this gigantic plate of broccoli. That's like all she was eating for the
Wow.
day. And I'm like dressed like an agent, dude. I'm like got
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
suit on, and she's probably like, whatever. And I launch in. This is now like 8 years ago now, right? And I launch into what I do, and I'm kind of giving her the speech, and then we start talking, about where I see her potential. Like, I think there was a big hole for another action star and all this stuff, and we didn't even know if she was going to be in the UFC. And I remember just hearing her story. She told her whole story, everything, father, all the stuff, and I was like, she's incredible. She just had this unbelievable, like laser focus. Like as you would talk, she would almost like turn her head to the side, like she's downloading what you're talking about. I would watch her do it all the time, with Edmund too. And you just see the way she took in information, and then the way she would talk, and the confidence that she would talk, and the things that she would say that she was willing to do. And we just decided, okay, let's go. And so I remember getting back to my car. It's like a scene out of a movie. Like I have my hands on the steering wheel, and I'm like about to put the key ignition, and I'm like, what did I just do? I just told this unbelievable, young woman, like, we're gonna go for the movie. Like, I don't know if she's gonna fight in the UFC ever, even though you believe it, you hear her talk about it. It was gonna happen. And man, we just go. I just start calling around. I call every studio exec that I've ever had a relationship with. You need to meet this woman. And I was like, well, great. What does she do? Well, she's a fighter. She's like, oh, she's a fighter in the UFC. I'm like, no, 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 man. They don't have women in the UFC. Like, oh, well, what's she fighting? It's like, well, she's had a couple of fights in Strikeforce. Like, what's Strikeforce? Nobody in the entertainment business was really, there's like a handful of MMA fans at the time, right? Who like really paid attention. And they know what Strikeforce was or anything. But they're like, all right, they've known me for like yeah, let's meet. And she would drive around. She must have taken 50 meetings. She would drive around in that famous Honda Civic that she used to talk about, the 1987 Honda Civic, no air conditioning, no working windows. She would drive it on the movie studio lots. She would never be late. She'd be so mad if she was late. If she was ever late, like by a minute, she would call me crying because she was like, she felt so bad that she would disrespect somebody that she was going to meet with, like, that she would be late. And people loved her. And right around that time, Dana announced that they're going to have the women's, bantamweight division in the UFC. It's going to start. And she gets the Fast and Furious role, and she gets the Expendables role. Fights in the UFC, wins her, first fight, second fight, that whole thing, that run is starting. The movies come out, Entourage movie and endorsements. We broke so many ceilings, I don't think that a MMA fighter at that time had like a mainstream endorsement, right? There was like a lot of, auto deals and energy drinks and, t-shirt type stuff, but she gets Buffalo jeans and she's on a 80-foot billboard in Times Square, right? And just like she had so many firsts, and I think that being a part of it, because I remember being there in Anaheim for the first fight, and I was at every single fight she ever fought, ever, and being there for that whole run and watching her and knowing her, the person that she is, and also I think the price that she paid for being first at times. I think that the rules felt a little bit different, didn't have the same effect. Like if she didn't tap gloves versus like if, some of the men don't tap gloves, like, oh, they don't like each other too much. If men do it and she doesn't do it, oh my gosh, she's the worst sport in the entire world, and so I learned so much. I learned so much about just the difference between, men and women in the world, men and women in sports. And I thought that she handled it her way. And I'm so, and I've been so proud of every single thing that she's accomplished. She is, to me, one of, the most special people that I've ever had, the opportunity to know. And I've learned so much from her, and she's trusted me on the journey. And now, I've watched her really accomplish everything she ever set out to do. She wanted to be in the UFC. She got in the UFC. She wanted to win titles. She won titles. She wanted to be in movies. She was in movies. She worked so hard to do all that stuff. Then she produces a television show. Why We Fight, it gets nominated for a sports Emmy in its first year. It goes secondly, it gets nominated for a sports Emmy again. She tells, the girl loves playing video games. Now she's streaming, video games and playing video games and, from her home and making, a real, decent part of her living is doing that. And she had always told the world that she was, going to be like a doomsday prepper and like she was, and that she was going to have a farm. And now she and Travis have this unbelievably happy life together where they're out on this ranch, Rousey Acres, and, they're growing their own food and they have cattle and they're doing all this stuff. And she's super, super happy. She's got a smile on her face every day. And I think that that's what is so cool. Like that part of, what we all should get to do. Like Ronda Rousey, despite what anybody wants to say, got to do it how she wanted to do it the whole time. And all she ever really wanted, and she's been quoted as saying, was to make enough money to pay her taxes and feed her dog. And everything else kind of came along with it. Like it was never about money for her. She just wanted to, be the best fighter she could be. And then everything else she does, she worked really, really hard at it. So it's been, that run it's just been such a pleasure to get to be her agent, from pretty much the start.